Has ever heard of the Hinterkaifeck killing? Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh, get down, get down. Yes, the Hinterkaifeck killings, which happened, I believe it was in 1922. It happened in Bavaria, Germany. It was this family, I think it was about 6 of them, that lived on a farm in, you know, the outskirts of Bavaria. You know, it's very remote. Not many people had access to it. It was this family that wasn't necessarily well liked by the community, especially the dad, Andreas, who was pretty much having sex with his daughter. And there's like multiple variations on this, of people saying that she was being consensual with him, and people saying that it was non-consensual and that he was raping her. That they would be sleeping in the barn, a lot of gross stuff. But his daughter Victoria had a child recently before the murders happened, and that child was also thought to be the child of their neighbor, who was this guy named Lorenz. I can't remember what his last name was, but he was their neighbor, and he wanted to marry Victoria, the daughter of this farmer. So they also think that he had fathered the baby, but they also think that the baby was a product of incest. And what they do know is that Lorenz, the neighbor, had pursued her romantically and tried to marry her because of this child, this offspring they had. So he is also suspected of being one of the murderers, and the thing is, they never caught the murderers who did this, and it's extremely creepy. But anyways, they were a well-off family. They had a good amount of money. It's never really said out in the open how much money they had. It's just known that they are well off. They were rich. But after the murders happened, the money was still there. No one took any of the money, which is why the case is so confusing, is because no one really knows why they were murdered. But there does seem to be plenty of motivation in this case, being that the family had this sort of notorious reputation around town. Like I said, the father was not well liked. People, I think, first of all, people knew about his incestuous relationship with this daughter, and they, you know, this was 1922, so this is something that, like, they highly disregarded. This is something they probably want to put him in jail for. There is also rumors and speculations that they were murdered by the Nazis, which is something in my mind I have stumbled upon, because there's so many weird inconsistencies with this story and with the suspects who they believe have killed them. Oh god. Ooh. But anyways, what started this was there was a maid that they had working with them for a number of years. And 6 months before the killings, the maid had gone around speaking with the family, basically telling them that she believed the place was haunted, because she was hearing footsteps, she was hearing disembodied voices, and it was at this point she could no longer take it, and she quit. And she had been their maid for quite some time, and it just really came out of nowhere that she started saying this. I hear these voices, I hear footsteps, things are being moved around, I can't stay here anymore, it's haunted. And it was immediately after that all of the strange things began to happen. So prior to that, the family, I guess they never noticed anything weird. It wasn't until after the maid left, which has made me think, you know, for quite some time now that maybe the maid had something to do with it, because it just seems odd that she would say that, and then the moment she leaves is when they begin to notice all the weird shit. But at the same time, there's so many things that can contradict that, because it was, you know, just so many things piled into this one single case with different people, different suspects, different motivations, that basically make that inert and not plausible, at least to some degree. But that's with every suspect you get in this story, is there's something that will make them inert and not plausible as the suspect. So she leaves, and then the next thing you know, the family is starting to notice these strange things happening. Oh shoot. Things being moved around the house. Voices. Uh-oh. Time for me to run. So they begin to hear the disembodied voices too. The father, Andreas, though, sort of dismisses these things, even though parts of the family, like, clearly have, you know, issue with it. They want these voices to be discovered, or like these strange happenings, things being moved around and stuff like that. They want to get to the bottom of it and figure it out. But for one reason or another, the father of the family really wants nothing to do with it and kind of acts like there's nothing going on. So you have all these strange things happening like that, and at one point in the story, I think it is Victoria, the daughter of Andreas, the one who had just given birth to this child who they don't know who the father is. Another person who might have been the father was this, I can't remember his name, but he went off to war to fight in World War I. Before she gave birth to the child or something like that. He went off to go fight in the war, and he apparently died, but there's speculation that his death was not accounted for, or it was faked, or it was a case of mistaken identity. They don't know. So there's so many people to throw into this picture that could be reasonably accused of being the killer or killers. And so Victoria, you know, she obviously got around with people, but sometime before all of the weird things began happening, while she was sleeping in her room at night, and this is a house, this is a barn in the middle, you know, a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. There is this soldier who comes to her window, some soldier she has never seen before. He comes to her window, like, for 2 or 3 weeks straight, just comes to her window in the middle of the night while she's sleeping, you know, taps on the window and begins having this conversation with her, like, every night, and, you know, telling her things like, hey, I know where you keep this in the house, and I know where you keep that. You know, saying really weird, creepy things like that. And the weird thing is they just always, like, just dismiss this shit. Yeah, it freaks her the fuck out, but they're, like, always dismissing this shit. Like, the family, Andreas is like, oh, these disembodied voices, whatever. You know, they keep dismissing this shit. And so Victoria did the same thing. You know, she told other family members that there's, like, this fucking soldier coming to my window every night, whispering these sweet nothings into my ear about knowing where everything in the house is and knowing where my baby sleeps. And that was one of the things he told her, was like, I know where your child sleeps. So it just gets stranger and stranger the further you go. And that soldier, I do believe they did get his name, and I do believe he was one of the suspects. I mean, I don't know. This is where like I kind of say that like it's definitely a possibility that the Nazis killed them, because this just, you know, it just seems like there's so many people who were involved in this that like it seems like it had to be a group of people. It seemed like it had to be like some sort of order, some form, some sort of mafia of some sort, and I could only think of the Nazis because I can't remember what it was, if he was the father, if Andreas, the father, was critical of the Nazis, or if he had ties with them or did deals with them. Oh, goodness. Shit. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. So that happens, and this is, you know, this is going into, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 months into the whole ordeal. Like I said, it all started when the maid left. So they're looking for a new maid, and it took them about 6 months to get a new maid. And I guess they are really, oh shit. They were really broken up by losing the maid like that. So she wasn't like, you know, easily replaced or anything like that. It was, you know, kind of a big deal to them. But so some of the strange things that begin to happen is, you know, Andreas, the father, comes downstairs one day and he notices a newspaper on the table. And this is not a newspaper that he or anyone in the family is subscribed to. So they don't know how this newspaper got there. And his first response is to question the mailman, to question the post carrier. Did you happen to come inside and leave this on my table? Did you bring this paper here? Was it in your stack of deliveries? And the postman, of course, said, no, I never seen that before. He gave him the rundown and showed him basically, this is all the mail I have and this is all I've been delivering, and I have not seen that. So that was one of the first things that happened. Another thing was, like I said, there was that soldier that kept coming to the Victoria's window and telling her that he knew where everything in the house was. So there's a set of keys in the house that continuously goes missing, and they don't know who's taking them, but they go missing, and then they come, you know, like a day or two later, they're back hanging at the place where they typically would leave them. There's that, and then there's the sound of footsteps coming from the attic, like the maid said, and the sound of disembodied voices. So all of this is going on. All of this is going on. And one of the last things that happen, and this is debated too, is Victoria, the daughter of Andreas, Victoria, or there's another younger female in this family. It was either Victoria or this younger girl. One of them, a night before, it's either a night or a week before everything happens, is they run off into the woods. They run off into the woods, just like completely, like something happened to them. Like they had some sort of mental breakdown, or they saw something, or it was something they heard. They run off into the woods and they're not seen for like 10 hours, and they're found later in the night, like sitting at a tree stump, like all hysterical and shit. So this is all going on, like all this weird stuff is happening. And that last incident, I believe that happened, it was either a week before the murders happened or just a day before the murders happened. So like a lot of really sus things have been going on, and it doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like they're going to be solving the issue anytime soon. And again, the family is, you know, continuously bringing this stuff up to Andreas, and he, for the life of him, won't take it seriously until this night, this one night before everything goes down, like a week later. He steps out the back door and he notices that there's footsteps in the snow leading from the woods to his house, to the back door, to the door he's standing out right now. There's footsteps leading to the house, but those footsteps don't lead back to the woods. So that means whoever made those footsteps, and they don't know who did it, whoever made those footsteps is in the house. And it's at this point, like, he begins to get freaked out. It's at this point he begins to seriously contemplate things and be like, okay, this is kind of a messed up situation. Maybe I need to do something about this. And a few days prior to that, there is a tool shed in the very back of the barn where there's, you know, it's locked up with like either a chain or a lock of some sort. And you know, he steps out there one day to go to the shed, and he notices that the lock has been broken off, and it looks like it was beaten off with like some sort of object, some sort of blunt object. You know, maybe a hammer, maybe it was sawed at, but someone is clearly on their property, or somebody's or something is clearly on their property, you know, screwing around with shit, watching them, listening to their conversations, all sorts of weird things. But the thing is, like, they didn't hear anything. Like, you know, this lock that's on the shed, like, whatever they used, whatever tool or instrument they used to try and open it would have, you know, reverberated it and created enough sound to alert them, so they don't understand, like, you know, how they did not hear this. So this story seems somewhat paranormal in a lot of ways, but it is after Andreas found the footsteps in the snow that they finally get the new maid. They finally hire a new maid. Oh shit. Oh goodness. Damn. But it's at that point they finally hire the new maid. And this is again where I bring the first maid into question, because the new maid dies with the family on the very first night she gets there. So that's sort of like why I tie the old maid into this too, because none of the weird shit happened until the maid said that she started hearing these things, and none of the weird, like, keys going missing and newspapers being left on table, footsteps in the snow, none of that happened until after she said this stuff. So part of me thinks that could have been an alibi, you know, an elaborate alibi by this maid to make people think that she was paranoid from these things when she was in fact one of the perpetrators. And she very well could have been, because when the family was murdered, like, no money was taken or anything, and it happened that the first night the new maid got there. So I thought maybe this was a crime of passion. Maybe Andreas did something to her. I mean, Andreas is known for being like this terrible person that nobody liked. Maybe he did something to her, and this was her form of revenge. And when she saw that new maid there, you know, she just couldn't handle it anymore. And she, who along with whoever else she was with, committed this murder. But again, there's so many contradictions in there, like with all the other suspects, like their neighbor Lorenzo. He is like suspect number one, I think. But anyways, the night that all of the family members are murdered, they're killed with a mattock. And a mattock is like this pickaxe-like object. They're all lured to the barn sometime during the night or sometime during the day. They're lured to the barn one by one. And I can't remember what order it was, but they're all lured to the barn. And as soon as they get in the barn, they are attacked and killed with the mattock. The idea is, what happened was there was a cow that was roaming around the property that was let out of its kennel cage, whatever you call it. And police believed that the cow was used to lure everyone into the barn. And that's why it was let out. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. But, so it was everyone in the family. The maid was killed as well. She was killed inside the house. She did not leave the house. She was killed inside the house. And the newborn baby, which was named Joseph, the one whose father nobody knew, was killed inside its crib. And I believe it was killed with a mattock as well. So after the family was murdered, like a week goes by, and you know, they don't show up for church or anything like that. And some guy came by. He was scheduled to come by to fix an engine, and so this was like a day or two after they were murdered. Someone is in the house after they're all killed. Someone is in the house. They see smoke coming from the chimney. All the animals are fed. You know, the livestock is taken care of. Someone is in the house. And the guy who came over for the repairs doesn't bother like knocking on the door. He just figures, you know, maybe they want to be left alone or something like that. I don't know. He doesn't bother knocking on the door. He waits a couple hours and then he goes works on the engine, assuming that they're inside. So he leaves, and then like a day or two later, I can't remember if it's a neighbor or what, he comes down the road and passes their house, and again, this guy sees that there's smoke coming from the chimney. Someone's clearly inside. As he's passing by, someone steps outside with a lantern, and all he sees is their silhouette, and he doesn't make out their face or any of their features, and this silhouette just shines the light in his face, basically blinding him with it and sort of making him like go away, you know, like giving him that sort of creepy vibe, like get the fuck out of here. And so that guy left, and it wasn't until like they weren't seen at church that the authorities finally got out there and they found all of their bodies in the barn. And the bodies were placed in a manner like to suggest that like there was an order to how they were killed. And I think it started with I don't know, it might have been Victoria, it might have been the first one that was murdered, but you can dig into a lot more of it on Wikipedia or videos on YouTube. It's one of the most creepiest, fascinating cases I've ever read. So the authorities did, you know, conclude that, you know, there was, you know, probably more than likely one killer, and they were living in the house while the family lived there, that they were staying in the house. most likely hiding in the attics. And then the real creepy part too is after the whole family is killed, whoever they are stays at the house for like 4 days. They sit down, there's signs of them having breakfast, having cooked themselves meals. They took care of the livestock, they fed the dog, but at the same time the dog apparently had a gash on its face. So one of them probably attacked the dog just enough to subdue it and make it stop barking, because I assume the dog, you know, freaked out when it saw them, tried alerting people. So they probably hit the dog or something like that and left this huge gash on its, you know, right beside its ear. A lot of weird stuff like that. But they fed the dog too, fed the animals, you know, made fires for the chimney and stuff like that. And then like on the 4th day, I guess they finally bailed out and just left the bodies there. Nobody knows who did it, but the neighbor, Lorenzo, I think his name was, as soon as the authorities, you know, found them, he was with them, I guess, and oh shit. Ah shit, hit on a fucking shingle. Damn. But apparently he wasn't too taken aback by the bodies, and like I guess he kind of knew where everything in the house was too when he was with the authorities. So, you know, like it's really weird. There's so many different people who like knew where everything in that house was. He was one of the suspects, and then there was a couple of drifters who seemed very likely to be the suspects, but if they were the ones who did it, like they left all this money there, like there was stacks and piles of money laying around everywhere. So, you know, whoever did it didn't take any money. So it doesn't seem to be like a robbery. It seems more like a crime of passion, or like I said, like there's like, look into it sometime on Wikipedia and you'll see just how many different suspects there are, and just like watch some videos on YouTube and just see how many different angles there are from the people who they've, you know, narrowed it down to. But it's one of the craziest stories I ever heard, next to like the Ditlov Pass story, which a lot of people probably know what I'm talking about, or Ditlov, I can't pronounce it. And I think that one was pretty much just like the Russians testing military weapons. There's a history of Russia testing weapons on that mountain, and during that time it was a period of they had developed new weapons and shit like that, and you know, these mountaineers or whatever, they're seeing explosions in the sky and taking pictures of them with their cameras. That was probably the government testing weapons, and they pretty much just like, oh shit, we killed these kids, let's not say anything about it. But this, I don't know if this will ever be solved. I think they did close the case, and they're not going to be opening it anytime soon, which is kind of unfortunate, because I really would like to find out who did it and why they did it. But it could have also have just been this concerted effort. Oh shit. Because a lot of people... Damn it. Oh shit. I guess a lot of people did not like this family. Could have been anyone.